Hey Soul Surfers, welcome back to Waves of Consciousness with my spiritual ocean. My name is Alicia. Today we are going to be riding the manifestation wave, although this topic can actually be used in different areas of life as well. But we're going to be talking about burnout, and more specifically, manifestation burnout. So if you're all set, let's go ahead and dive on in. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, you can book services online at www.myspiritualocean.com. Experiencing manifestation burnout is real, and it's actually more common than you think, especially with people who are new to conscious and intentional manifesting. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about signs that you're experiencing manifestation burnout, how manifestation burnout occurs, and how to prevent or get out of manifestation burnout. So let's start off with some signs that you may be experiencing manifestation burnout. The first sign is that you have a very negative outlook on life and also manifestation, and you're experiencing heavy doubt. Another sign is that manifesting doesn't feel fun, because manifestation is supposed to be fun and feel magical. But when you're experiencing manifestation burnout, it does not feel that way at all. You know, when you first start manifesting and learning about manifestation and you're really excited about it and taking your power into your own hands, but because things don't happen right away or in the timing that you want specifically, then you just kind of feel like it's not fun. It feels like a chore. You have to do this. That's what I'm talking about here. Manifestation doesn't feel fun. It feels like a chore, like something you have to do, even though you're constantly manifesting. Another sign that you may be experiencing manifestation burnout is that you routinely feel like giving up on your manifestation, or maybe you've even rage quit on your manifestation a time or two or more because it hasn't shown up in the 3D yet. And a final sign that you may be experiencing manifestation burnout is that you feel consistently exhausted, frustrated, stressed, and overwhelmed when it comes to your manifestation. Now, this, of course, is not a comprehensive list, but these seem to be the most common signs of manifestation burnout that I've experienced personally and that I've seen others experience that I've worked with. Now, as I said before, we are specifically talking about manifestation burnout, but if you notice these signs in other areas of your life, you may be experiencing burnout in general, and this may also be a pattern that you've had in your life as well. So ask yourself if burnout is a pattern throughout your life or if it's just specifically with manifestation. It's just something to reflect on. So those are the most common signs of manifestation burnout, but how does manifestation burnout happen? Why do we get burnt out on manifestation? Well, one reason is that you could be taking manifestation way too seriously. Like I said before, manifestation and really life in general is meant to be fun and carefree. But if you've experienced trauma or routinely don't have things go your way, or if happiness and joy and fun was very limited or scarce as you were growing up, then you may learn to take life very seriously because you have this expectation that the fun, happiness, joy, and all of that is not going to last. So you don't even let yourself have fun and you just take everything so seriously. And that includes manifestation. Another reason manifestation burnout happens is because you are constantly seeking all of the answers before putting things into practice and learning as you go. So you seek to know more answers because you think you have to know everything before deciding whether or not manifestation works. But manifestation is all about experiencing, and working with the subconscious mind is about experiencing. So you have to take the things you learn and put them into practice before you have all of the information, because there's an infinite amount of information. So if you continue to look for answers, you're going to continue to find answers, and it really becomes more like an unconscious procrastination technique than actually trying to manifest what you want. It's about perfection instead of trial and error and seeing what does and does not work for you. And to go along with this, if you are chasing a new technique or coach hopping, hearing all different people, listening to all these different viewpoints instead of practicing, that's also going to delay things for you. And that's also going to burn you out because you're going to have kind of a system overload of information. And a lot of times when you listen to a whole lot of different people without starting to put things into practice, you kind of start to doubt yourself because there tends to be conflicting information. And the reason there's so much conflicting information is because we're coming from all of our different experiences. We've tried different things, we've had different circumstances growing up, something worked for one but not the other. And so it's really all about hearing what resonates for you and trying out those things and seeing if they work for you or not. So essentially, you kind of experience burnout if you are spending too much time consuming and not enough time creating. Too much time consuming, learning, sponging everything in instead of actually putting it into practice. Another reason manifestation burnout happens is because there is too much focus on the 3D and not enough focus on self. So you may be doing all of these techniques trying to make the 3D change, but if you truly understand how manifestation works, you're never changing the 3D. You are always changing yourself, and then your 3D will reflect that change back to you. So when people are doing a lot of different techniques, what they're doing is trying to manifest instead of allowing things to manifest. And when you're trying so hard to manifest something, you're actually trying to force it instead of allowing it to unfold for you. So this heavy focus on the 3D is going to leave you feeling drained. Now, this one might be a little bit of a controversial take, but another way that manifestation burnout happens is that you have too strict of a mental diet. When you learn about manifestation, you often inherit this narrative that your thoughts create your reality. But really, your thoughts are a byproduct of your belief systems, and your beliefs are what are creating your reality. And a thought is just part of that system. So when you're focusing only on your thoughts and you have a very strict mental diet, what you're doing is giving your power away to your thoughts. Because when people have a strict mental diet, they're usually afraid of the things that they're thinking because that's what they're taught. Their thoughts create their reality. When your mental diet is too strict, you end up spending too much time overthinking and not enough time feeling, embodying, and experiencing. And you have to allow yourself to experience things in order to appreciate and enjoy your manifestation to its whole capacity, basically. This next reason for manifestation burnout kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, and that is that manifestation burnout happens when people are suppressing their emotions. Emotions are just energy in motion. They're there to let you know that something's been activated, some kind of narrative. That energy just wants to get through the system. It needs to move through. So when you don't allow that energy to move through by suppressing your emotions, then things become really heavy and it clogs up your energetic system. So you want a free-flowing energy system because manifestation starts in the energetic field first and then becomes visible in the 3D. So if you're suppressing your emotions, there's a lack of honesty and a lack of authenticity there. Now, there's many reasons why people may suppress their emotions. One is that they are taught that you have to feel good all the time to manifest what you want, which is 100% not true. And another reason they may suppress their emotions is because they have some sort of negative associations with emotions and feeling. This could come in the form of not being allowed to feel certain emotions when they were a child, not having emotionally regulated models around them to show them how to process their emotions, or just the general fear of hurt. But usually I find that the main reason is that people don't know how to process their emotions. They don't know how to be with that discomfort, mainly because of the narrative that they have attached to that discomfort or that emotion. So when you change your relationship with your emotions, things get easier. And when you're suppressing your emotions, you're usually resisting the 3D. So a lot of times what I see is, again, when people are so focused on their thoughts and something opposite shows up in their 3D, instead of allowing that feeling and emotion to be there and acknowledge it, they'll start to panic affirm against whatever's going on in the 3D. But basically what they're doing is feeding that fear state and feeding that story, that narrative that the opposite is happening. So they're basically causing that resistance and still giving their power away to whatever's going on in the 3D. Another reason manifestation burnout happens is because you are rushing to get to the end goal, but your system does not have the capacity to hold that experience yet. This tends to happen when people start doing too much too fast. They'll do constant techniques throughout the day. They become obsessed with their manifestation. It takes up all of their time. Some things I used to do, I used to listen to subliminals all day, every day. It felt like I would do EFT tapping very regularly. Not that regularly is bad because you want to do it consistently, but you also want to listen to your system and rest so it can recalibrate. So whenever I do energy healing work with people or any kind of somatic practices, the body needs time to recalibrate to what's going on energetically. And a lot of times people don't listen to that and they will just power through and push through, which is actually not beneficial for the system. And it does not increase the capacity. It just stresses out the system even more. Especially for those who have grown up with dysregulated nervous systems. This is a great example, I think. So think of this like a marathon. If you went to a 26-mile full marathon, I think that's what they are, right? 26.2, I think. Anyway, if you went to participate in a marathon and you went full out running from the get-go, you would probably burn out very early on in that 26 miles. It's the same thing with your nervous system and your energetic system. So if you're doing too many things too fast, full throttle, it's going to burn out. And then the recovery time is going to take even longer for you to experience and get to that baseline again. So when you start doing things in a slow and methodical way and pace yourself, consistency versus trying to shove everything in at once, it's going to have a better, more long-term and sustainable outcome for you. And that kind of leads me into this final way that manifestation burnout can happen. And that is striving for perfection instead of consistency. And you also don't allow yourself room to make mistakes. So you're really focused on doing everything right and perfectly. And this kind of ties in also with the needing to find all of the answers. It's a little perfectionism, which is procrastination, also wrapped in a cute little bow. Again, that's not a full and exhaustive list, but those are the most common things and reasons I've seen behind how manifestation burnout happens and how you get to a state of burnout while you're manifesting. So whether you're already in a state of burnout or you're approaching the state of burnout or you just want to prevent it, here is how you can do that. The first way is to shift your focus from the 3D to yourself. As I said before, the 3D is a reflection of the beliefs that you hold, and the way the 3D affects you is a byproduct of the beliefs that you hold. And shifting the focus from the 3D to you does not mean you have to ignore the 3D. In fact, you can become besties with your 3D, because when you get really honest about how you're feeling about what's going on in the 3D, that's going to help you be able to process and notice the narratives that you have running so you can shift that story. If you would like more information on how to ignore the 3D to manifest what you want, I do have a full podcast episode on that you can check out as well. I'm pretty sure it's just called How to Ignore the 3D to Manifest What You Want. All right, so shift that focus from out there to in here. That's going to be step one. Another very important way to prevent burnout or move yourself out of burnout is to let yourself rest and prioritize yourself and your needs, especially your basic human needs like sleep, eating, joy, love, all of those things. Manifestation is all about knowing it's done and allowing it to unfold. So really all you need to do is learn how to rest. There may be action you need to take, but it shouldn't feel forced. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It shouldn't be begrudging. So let yourself rest. And something that I really noticed when I first started learning how to rest, because I used to be my worth used to be super tied to my productivity. So I would not let myself rest. So when I started practicing allowing myself to rest and listening to what I need, I did notice that I was unconsciously, until I noticed it, then I was conscious of it, that I was still shaming myself and guilting myself for resting. And if you are shaming and guilting yourself for resting, you're not actually resting. So you'll want to process through that and give yourself permission to rest without any guilt, without any shame, and without any judgment. Plus, when you listen to you, then the universe listens to you because you are the universe. So when you listen to yourself, prioritize yourself, put your needs first, guess what? The 3D is going to reflect that back to you through your manifestations. It's going to prioritize you. It's going to listen to you. It's going to give you what you need and what you want. Another way to prevent or get out of manifestation burnout is to go out and have fun and do things that you love to do. This is probably the number one way to combat burnout. Go out, have fun, find things that really just light you up and bring you so much joy just by doing them. And it can be anything. Be really honest with yourself. Whatever you love to do. And it can be different too. I love all different sorts of things. Sometimes I like to dance. Sometimes I like to listen to music. Sometimes I like to play board games. Just really anything where you're allowing yourself to have fun and be free and not be so focused on the 3D. It's really prioritizing your joy and your happiness. Another way to prevent or get out of burnout is to start practicing consistency instead of perfection. There's this phrase that I love where they say progress, not perfection. So when you're focusing and noticing the subtle changes that you're making and celebrating those, sometimes I call those non-3D victories, because the 3D doesn't always show you exactly what you want in the moments that you want it. So if you learn to celebrate and notice those non-3D victories, it feels really good, and you start to notice your progress and focus on that, then before you know it, even though they're small, subtle shifts a lot of times, before you know it, you're way further than you thought you were. But a lot of times, so many people are focused on how far they have to go instead of where they're at. And remember, there's only now, there's only the present moment. So celebrate those non-3D victories. Celebrate those things that seem small. Try not to judge them, because even the small, quote unquote, small victories are very large victories in the grand scheme of things. Another way to prevent or get yourself out of a burnout state is to start treating yourself with kindness when you make mistakes. So let's say you've reacted to the 3D. If you've reacted to the 3D, be nice to yourself. So many people shame themselves. They get mad at themselves. They think that they've ruined everything. That is not the case at all. Even switching from shaming yourself to treating yourself with kindness in situations where you may not necessarily feel proud of yourself, it really makes a gigantic difference. And as you practice treating yourself with kindness, the easier it will get. And you'll stop feeling so heavy, so overwhelmed with those emotions like shame, guilt, judgment. Those things will be released so you don't have to carry them around, which is another main reason for burnout, is because you're carrying too much and your system can't handle it. So when we're talking about things like energy healing and EFT tapping and techniques, if you're consistent with them instead of forcing yourself to do them every day, and then also listening to yourself, your system capacity is going to grow. It's going to be able to handle those things. Because like I mentioned before, if you try to do too much too fast, your system's going to shut down, and that can manifest in all different ways depending on the person. So when you practice consistency instead of perfection, then it builds and expands the capacity within your system to hold and maintain joy, peace, and happiness a lot longer. And finally, one of the best ways to prevent or get yourself out of manifestation burnout is to allow and release your emotions. I always go back to the validate and shift method. There's a misconception when it comes to validating your emotions. People think that means dwelling there. But validating your emotions means acknowledging and honoring that they're there and not attaching a story to them, because that's when it becomes dwelling. When you start attaching a negative meaning to an emotion, that's when it sticks around longer. So when you acknowledge and say something like, I know that I'm feeling sad right now, and that's okay, without saying, I'm feeling sad because, you can just say, I'm feeling sad and that's okay and this will pass. That actually gives that emotion space to move through. And that's all it really wants to do anyway. And then once you've processed and released that emotion, however is best for you, again, there's different techniques you can use depending on the emotion, then you can shift the narrative. You can see what narrative was activated by that emotion, and you can change the narrative or the words that you use to associate with that emotion, or change it to a more favorable statement for yourself. And the more you validate, process, and release your emotions, that's also going to build capacity for your system to hold the things that you want, that make you feel joyful, happy, peaceful, however it is that you want to feel. It's going to allow the capacity to hold those things more easily and more sustainably. If it feels challenging to identify and release your emotions or beliefs, the emotion code, body code, and belief code can help. You can learn more about that on my website at www.myspiritualocean.com. So there you have it. Those are the signs of manifestation burnout, how manifestation burnout happens, and how to prevent or relieve manifestation burnout. And remember, you can apply any of this information to any area of life where you might be feeling burnt out as well. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I will catch you on the next wave.